Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Seed World Innovation Series webinar. My name is Alex Martin, and I serve as an associate editor for Seed World. And today, I'm happy to be your host. Today's theme is how to identify, market, and sell to farmers through detailed data analysis. I'd like to take a minute to thank Farm Market ID for partnering with us on this Innovation Series webinar. Presenting the webinar today is Steve Rayo. Steve is a strategic executive with a deep background in marketing, data, and analytics, and a broad industry background. His expertise and knowledge, ranging from venture-backed enterprises to Fortune 500 companies, is valuable when working with clients to develop data solutions that will help achieve their strategic goals. He currently leads Farm Market ID in bringing data-driven marketing and strategic decision-making to the agriculture industry. He brings a unique perspective to database marketing in agriculture due to his broad expertise in delivering database marketing solutions across many industries. And during our presentation, you'll likely have some questions for Steve. Please type these into the chat box at any time during the webinar, and we'll address them in our Q&A session we'll hold after he finishes his presentation. Also, we'll have a few poll questions for you throughout the presentation. These will pop up in your chat box for you to answer. We'd also like to let you know that today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available at seedworld.com following the proceedings. We'll also be sending out an email with the link to the webinar for your personal use. So how can you best use data to market to farmers? Well, that's what we're hoping to answer for you today. In today's webinar, you'll learn how to identify your company's ideal customer base through fact-based information such as crop type, farm size, gross farm income, and more. I'll go ahead and let Steve take it from here. So take it away, Steve, and give us all the information you got.
Well, thank you, Alex. I want to thank everyone for joining today, especially in a very busy time and a very strange growing season. I think we can all acknowledge that. And a couple of things that I wanted to just add to kind of the context that I bring and our company brings is we're the leader in providing grower data. And when I say grower data, I'm talking detailed level information about the growers, their crops, their fields, the history of the farm operation. You'll see some of that in some of the slides today, and if time permitting, we might even take a peek into some of our applications. But we really, one thing I want to point out is we aren't trying to solve the agronomic challenge. We aren't prescriptive and we aren't diagnostic. What we do is help really all facets of the ag industry, agribusiness, connect to the grower's doorstep and to the farm gate to better understand the farmer, their needs, who they are, where they are, and better able to resource the agribusinesses resources against those opportunities. So I'd like to start with this one I've used in the last couple of times I've presented because I think it's especially relevant today. Farmer's the only man in our economy who buys everything at retail, sells at wholesale, and pays the freight both ways. I think this is especially pertinent today in light of we're now in the 5th year of a really down commodity cycle, if it is in fact a cycle, and farmer margins, the margins and profitability of farmers, particularly in the Midwest, grains farmers are very much precarious, and the actual sustainability of the family farms, which goes many generations, is in question. And I think it really is important that agribusiness understand what farmers are dealing with, both economically and as they're thinking about their farm. And I think Farm Market ID and some of the things we're doing has been really helpful in kind of highlighting some of those needs to our clients. So today we're going to talk about how to identify sort of your ideal customer base, ways to better analyze, calculate, and determine market and wallet share. some different ways to use data and to market and across different channels, and then really how to connect the sales organization into the same marketing and strategies that you've employed to make sure that everyone is kind of rowing in the same direction and working against the same market segments. And again, time permitting, we may do a little demo. I think it may be tough in terms of time. I'll probably go through things kind of quickly, but again, I think we'll be circulating a PDF or PowerPoint, and there'll be a recording. And of course, our contact information will be there for anyone who wants to follow up with any questions. So the first bullet, talking about the ag industry is a zero-sum game. This makes the need to understand your market share, and I don't mean market share in terms of the overall market, but the market that you can address. You have sales and distribution, you have products that would serve these farmers, and that's your market. And for every dollar that you win from a customer is a dollar that your competitor didn't get. The growth in input spend and output is fairly stagnant, and it really is about competing and standing out from your competition. And and I think when you also look at some of the things that are happening that are sort of a backdrop in terms of farmer and farm decisions, you got a number of economic factors. Again, we've talked about the commodity price issue, which is putting the Midwest farmers at the point of break even in many cases. We're seeing higher farmland cost, and farmers have to produce more with less. And the economics of farming during the cycle, and especially this year, with what we're going to see is probably 15 to 20 million missing acres because of prevent plant and some of the failed plantings that would have occurred. It's just exacerbating that issue. And then you're seeing disruption in the input side. You're seeing a lot of new business models that are coming up in terms of how to deliver products and services to farmers. A lot of private equity coming into it. You're seeing at the input manufacturer side a lot of consolidation, and then of course on output lower prices. And then this is just a general observation, having looked at a lot of different industries, especially in ag. What you find is this strategy, like the decisions of what you should be focused on and the resource allocation, really is not integrated or lined up with how they're marketing, who they're marketing to, and who salespeople, the boots on the ground, are selling to. And if everyone's not kind of working towards the same effect, your chance of having success is considerably decreased. And that's been something we've been really helping clients with, is moving it from strategy marketing into sales execution. So first, you got to identify, know what market you're competing in. And, to think that you're competing in the entire, U.S. market alone may be a bit too ambitious. And you really need to break it into segments and or identify what your market and your market reach is. I think we have about 340 million planted acres in our database. We track pretty closely to what NASS has, and we have that down to a grower level. That's over 130 billion in gross farm income, over 2 million farmers. It's a lot of fields, a lot of acres, and a lot of people. And you really you shouldn't boil the ocean, because to try to spend marketing, sales, or overall resource allocation across this broad market, you'll be diluting your effect at your true target market. And we would call that kind of the approach there would be the Goldilocks approach. It's big enough for impact and to really move the needle for the organization, but not too big to the extent that you can't truly execute against it. And executing against it is really integrating. Are you marketing to these people? Are you creating differentiation? Are you communicating to their needs? And are salespeople armed with that same information to carry that message forward to the doorstep? This one's a little blurry, actually. So, again, what's your market? A lot of people in this call may be in the Chemfert seed business. There's fuel, livestock, farm services, that'd be agronomy and things like that. So, what is it you sell, right? a lot of times it's a function of crop or crops. And actually, I should add a third one, which is what geography you're competing in. And that's really how you need to start. Start at a high level, break it down into pieces, figure out how do those break down in terms of market segments, which is a combination of product, geography, and crops. And then you can further refine it into personas and things like that. And we'll touch on that a little bit as well. So to find amongst this overall market, who your customers are, you really need to kind of get an understanding of who they are in terms of, why do they buy, what economic things are they dealing with, what are the crops they're participating in, what are the dynamics going on there. The more you know about, what your customers are dealing with, the more you can be a partner to them to help them be more successful. I think the day and age of trying to shove product into farmers' business is behind us, and it's really about how to make them more successful. What is the right seed and seed variety and seed choice for their particular case? The agronomy services are becoming more and more important. But then again, not every farmer is the same. You want to look at different segments. It could be size of farmer, again, geography. It could be looking at farmers that own their land versus operate or lease their land. What's the right market segment and what are the right buyer personas is going to be different from company to company. And we're seeing a lot more people interested in the buyer personas. If you're not familiar with personas, this would be really getting into the behavior and psychology and psychographic profile of the buyers. You may have 10 people that are 500-acre corn farmers, but they may make decisions differently. They may view risk differently. They may buy differently in terms of, do they want to just buy? They don't want to talk to someone, right? I don't know that it's necessarily an e-commerce model that we'll see, but they have different needs, different ways they want to interact with agribusiness. You want to look at kind of where you've had success and really understand why, because the why and where you've had success really is kind of a keystone to understand where there may be fertile ground in areas that you're not marketing to, not selling to. Obviously, value proposition, it's kind of an overused term, but it's overused because it's very relevant. Why are they going to buy from you? What is going to resonate with them that allows you to stand out from your competition and what is, again, a zero-sum game. Market research is very useful, and I think it's also very helpful in creating personas. And obviously, we do this a lot. A lot of our ideas around new product development doesn't come from us sitting around in a room and throwing darts at a dartboard. We talk to our clients. They tend to tell us what they want. I would say the same is true with farmers. Ask them what they want. And the people that aren't doing business with you, why aren't you doing business with us? You don't necessarily need to ask it in quite that way, but the more you understand how they make decisions and why they chose you or didn't choose you is really effective at identifying your target market and possibly expanding your market segments. So here's kind of how we underneath all of these applications, we have an application called Market View, an application called Farm Focus, and an application called Field Vision. And the way it's presented is Market View is the entire market where we're trying to look at for pockets of opportunity, providing you a lot of ability to do analysis. It's a very visualization, business intelligence type platform. Charts, graphs, dashboards, and all that, where we also help identify, we analyze and calculate market and wallet share. And so that's the idea of saying, where should I hunt for my next, $1 million? This is built on the same data that exists in our Farm Focus and Field Vision system. That was by design, so you can move seamlessly from big idea strategy down to the underlying grower level detail that is driving that strategy. We have terabytes upon terabytes of data that are sitting in this platform, going back, looking at the industry over 10 years at quarter acre increment, over 150 crops. It's about 340 million acres, 2 million farmers, and looking at it in a million different ways. And again, here are some of the key things we're trying to do there. So this really serves the strategic use case, again, to analyze and understand your market and calculate market and wallet share, create some market segments that you can then start to build go-to-market strategies against, hunt for opportunity. Where are there dollars that you're not getting geographically, maybe within certain crop segments, maybe certain size growers? Where are you not doing well that you should be? And then again, the kind of Goldilocks strategy, big enough for impact, but not so big that it's unwieldy and you can't actually integrate and execute against it. And these are all kind of high-level conceptual things, but we'll actually show you how it works within the applications and how you actually do it. And then the farm focus system, after you've identified your pockets of opportunity, specific prospects that you're not doing business with, or customers where you're getting a small amount of their wallet share. There's very different marketing strategies you do. One is CRM, customer relationship marketing. Could be as simple as sending an email on a regular basis. It could be a matter of employing marketing automation, which we'll touch on a little later. But how to constantly communicate, better serve your customers to increase your share of their wallet. And then there's prospects. So what we do in Farm Focus is we identify both of those categories, and then we give you the tools to search, sort, cut, slice and dice that data, and then ultimately provide marketing services to go execute against it. It could be direct mail. It could be targeted digital ads. And by targeted digital ads, I mean as detailed as you want to get. You could theoretically deliver an ad wherever they are on the internet. If they're a 500-acre farmer that's a millennial that owns 60% of their land and collects die-cast miniatures, you can get that specific. I wouldn't recommend it for digital ads for a variety of reasons. Tough to operationalize it. But you can deliver ads to them wherever they are online, and then you can really integrate that with other channels. So that's really what Farm Focus is about. So here's strategy, here's marketing, and field vision is really the sales execution, the final step in securing business with a customer. Ag is not e-commerce. You're not going to just drive traffic to the website and e-commerce checkout. It's generally done person to person, but it doesn't need to be person to person, just randomly walking around or hoping to bump into your next prospect. It really can be driven by the same data that's driving your strategy, marketing, and sales. And that's what our field vision tool is. It's mobile responsive. It uses your location and shows you everybody around you, all the fields around you, and allows you to filter and say, I only want to see large farmers or these crops or whatever, so that you can actually have that information at your fingertips. This is sort of an illustration of how we're organized. We have this really powerful database that we could do a whole slide deck on just the database. It includes all the crops, acres, history, crop rotation, all the people connected to a particular farm operation, consumer demographics like age, marital status, anything like that, which are useful in a marketing context. So we have this data as the foundation of everything we do. And then on top of that, we've built these applications. We talked a little bit about Market View, which serves the strategy purpose, Farm Focus, which is marketing, and Field Vision, which is sales. And then there's some things underneath that speak to kind of the actual underlying services or use case. And then here's kind of why you're doing some of these things. It could be sales prospecting, because you want to grow revenue by increasing wallet share. Maybe you're launching a new product. You're looking for expansion, geographic, or within new product categories. These are all the sort of the use cases, the drivers of these applications and these data. So I have a couple screenshots, since we probably won't have time to go through a demo. And if we did, it would be just a very short bit on each one, but I wanted to give you a flavor of what these applications are. It's not conceptual, it's not theoretical. We actually have it, right? People are using it, and they're using it to make strategic decisions. So this starts at the top. You're looking at the entire market. In our database, we have a total of 1.8 billion acres. Now, that includes things that you may not be interested in, like forestry or wetlands. But when we break it down into farm acres, it's over 600 million. So that includes pasture, range, but about 93 to 95% of all crop production is in our database. And what we do is we turn all those acres into spend, and it could be any category. Here in this sort of demo example, we're looking at input spend, seed, fert, and chem. And basically what we do is we take all the acres in our database and multiply it by the average spend per acre in all the different geographies by the different crops. We get that data from USDA. We also get it from a lot of the ag extension services. So it's simple. Multiplying acres times spend per acre gives you the dollars, and we have all these dollars connected to growers. And then what we do is we match our client's file to ours, and that way they can say, all right, who's a customer, who's a prospect, and I think the next slide shows you. Well, here's one. So here would be, okay, you've identified some segment that you're interested in. Now you want to go a little deeper. What's the average number of planted acres for the segment? What's their average gross farm income, average age? This is just a sampling of the types of visuals. Each of these visuals takes 3 to 5 minutes to create. Our clients can create their own, or we can create them for them. Because all the data's been built underneath. We're just creating visualizations and analyses that answer the key questions our clients have. This platform was built to be able to answer those questions, and many of those questions we don't know what they are yet. Our clients have all kinds of questions, and we needed to build a platform that allowed us to have the data underneath and then create the analyses on top and the visualizations on top. So maybe, hey, where are good areas for us to expand our footprint? Where should we put our next location? We can help you there. Where am I doing a poor job of customer wallet penetration? Where within my business hierarchy? Maybe I've organized, this is my Eastern Corn Belt region. How are they doing relative to the Western Corn Belt, right? And you can start to really have analyses to inform your decision making and your resource allocation, and ultimately your go-to-market strategies. And then here, much like we saw in the last one, is the actual, let me go back here. The way this is organized, we always have along here the channel counts. This total number of growers, total unique locations, since you may have multiple people at one, the phone numbers we have, the mobile phones that we have, these are all real numbers, the emails we have, and then this one is an estimated, because this is where we're connecting our data with online cookies and mobile device IDs to enable that targeted digital advertising. The reason why we can't give you an exact number, every month it changes based on new cookies, refreshed cookies, and new mobile device IDs. So it's constantly changing. But generally speaking, we will match about 60%. So 60% of the growers up here, we're going to have some way to connect them digitally and reach them digitally. So again, the counts are on the left-hand side, and then there's some additional analysis. This one is kind of interesting. This chart shows you kind of the age banding and how that relates to gross farm income and planted acres. And you'll see this is a small segment, but you'll see this pretty much universally. You'll see this kind of almost like a bell curve where farmers increasing acres up into about 55 or 60, and then they start to decrease the number of acres that they farm, which follows logic. At the age of 60 or 65, they're not looking to expand their acreage. They're probably looking to either hand it off to their son or daughter, or maybe farm less and start to lease out their farmland. Maybe slowing down just a little bit. So this is one of many visuals of, I don't know why this one's not displaying, understanding market and wallet share. Again, what we do we are calculating what is the total spend potential, and we can narrow that down by geography, by crop, whatever, so that it truly represents your addressable market. We then, this is all dummy data because we didn't want to use any client data, obviously. We then compare your sales against that. So you have 66 billion of potential. You've sold 6.8 billion, right? That was your annual sales. So obviously the total opportunity is 59 billion. And so that leaves you with a 10% market share. And I've always thought it kind of odd that everyone's focused on market share. I'm more focused on what you're not getting, right? I mean, obviously you want to track this over time, but you really, what you can influence is what do I need to know about this 89.7%? Some of them are customers where we're not getting all a wallet, and some of them are prospects. So that's really kind of some of the questions that our MarketView platform really expects to answer, is again to help you figure out where are the fertile grounds, where are the pockets of opportunity. We're not yet down to here's the list of growers, but all that grower level data, in fact, down to quarter acre and field level data, is driving those big decisions. But that same data is being used to actually execute downstream. So you've identified your target market and you have a good strategy, and your strategy is not based on this is how we've done it, or this feels right, or seems right. But it's actually driven by data. You've sort of looked at the data and said, here's a whole bunch of dollars. Today we're getting little. We should be getting these. Look like our customers. Look like the kinds of people. Why are we lacking a presence? Maybe. Is there a brand issue? Do they not know or understand our brand? Maybe. Is the product not well suited for that segment? That way you can start to answer some of those questions. Well, I would say ask and then answer. And then again, so then you say, all right, the data that drove my strategy is going to then allow me to say, all right, here are segments, maybe it's prospecting or maybe it's customers that we want to market to. And now we can start to build a marketing plan that incorporates this targeted data and this target segment. And we can look across the variety of different channels. You generally see in the ag industry, print is still pretty important, but you're seeing increasingly the importance of digital media, both kind of websites, display, video, social, and really with the complexity of some products. Sometimes it's very important that it not be a single message marketing effort, that you put an offer in front of someone, they either accept it or not. Many times you need to message them several times. You need to build some awareness, a brand, and start to become an answer to their problem. And you need to look at frequency of messaging, and you need to look at the channels and use all of the channels in an integrated way. Obviously, you need to determine your success KPIs. Being a finance guy by DNA, I'd say one of the KPIs better be profitability, return on investment, lifetime value, and of course, conversion rate and things like that. And you always got to keep in mind the W's. Who are we marketing to? Where are they? When? And this is something we're really working on a lot now, is really helping our clients know when to put an offer in front of them. And we're bringing in a lot of real-time data. So it'd be real-time weather data, looking at real-time field level vegetative conditions, because those are times where people are thinking about, geez, did I make the right seed selection? Should I have applied some sort of pre-emergent fungicide? When they're having issues, positive or negative, using that timely event to then present an offer in front of them. Again, the weather, some of the flooding are key times, depending on what your product or service is, and then why. What is about your product and this grower that connect? Why should they use you? Is it because you're your test performance data far outpaces anyone else in that particular geography, got to figure out why they should choose you, because all of that needs to be incorporated in your marketing strategy. Other thing I wanted to mention is the use of marketing automation, and this is relatively new in ag. Is this idea of marketing automation is not just sending an email. Marketing automation, these are some of the real popular platforms that you see out there. It really takes, your customer data, it takes website visitors, it takes people that are interacting with some of your content. It also includes sales, CRM type information. We've contacted this person, they became a buyer. You're looking at it all in one place so you can understand what people are engaging with, what they're interested in, and tailor your content, your message to really connect to them, and using that holistic view from a data perspective to do that. And again, I talked about this a little bit more, the multi-touch marketing. Depending on what your product is, you may need to do more, rather than spread your number of pieces of direct mail or ads or whatever over 2 million farmers. Find the ones that are really should be customers of yours, should really be the ideal segment, and then double up, triple up, message them more frequently, because you're probably better off sending them, if you're doing direct mail, 2 pieces of direct mail rather than splitting it over 2 people if you've identified the right segment. So this is our Farm Focus platform. So again, after you've identified, it's sort of blurry here, after you've identified your perfect kind of audience, combination of size, crop, et cetera, then what we do is we load that into our Farm Focus platform that allows you to search, sort, slice, dice, analyze, export, so that you can actually use in marketing applications, and then even use for providing a list to salespeople or having salespeople direct access into it. So here is a visual that shows kind of where our Farm Focus system, the data around, these are the people you really want to prospect on because they spend a lot, they're the right segment, and you may be employing many of these channels. But then that same group of segments, you need your salespeople to be marching to the same tune. And how are they going to do it? Well, our grower profile, and this looks at, and I will show you this towards the end, what this looks like, because it's a good illustration of the level of detailed data to really understand the grower, understand some of their decisioning. And this is our field vision tool, which again, it locates you and it looks at everything around you. What are the fields? What are the growers? Grain bins? All that. Everything that you, from that perspective, would be interested to know who may be a good person to call on would be here, and you can really filter your view and then click and learn a lot about them. But here again, what we're doing is really integrating the marketing data and sales data, so that if you're marketing to the certain people, that's who you should be selling to. If you're selling to certain people, you should be marketing to them. They really should work hand in hand. Well, that's kind of what this message is. Sell who you market to, market who you sell to, and using kind of the same data inherently puts everyone on the same sheet of music. And also be wary of being consistent in your messaging. If you're marketing a certain thing like, hey, our this nitrogen product we have really is better than all these other ones because it's sustainable, it's good for the soil, it's good for the environment, whatever your message is. Well, if your salespeople are going out there with a different message, you're creating a lot of confusion, and one discredits the other. So and if you're marketing to the same people, which hopefully you will, or selling to the same people you're marketing to the same people you're selling to, making sure that you're consistent in your messaging, so that when salespeople go in there, it's a very consistent message that they may have seen pop up in an ad, delivered to their inbox, maybe to their mailbox, or they saw it on social media, because then you're reinforcing it. And again, this is talking about really doubling down on really your perfect target rather than spreading your marketing dollars across 2 million farmers. So, be precise and purposeful, make sure you know who you're marketing to, and really enable your sales team to be focused. I talk to all of our clients all the time, and I always ask the question, how do you find your next customer? And I get a lot of blank stares. It goes quiet, and they don't really have a good answer. It's just, well, salespeople call on people. Well, how do they know who to call on? They know everyone in their market. I'm sure a lot of you on the phone have heard that. They don't know everyone in their market, and they don't know everything about everyone in their market. And so what we're hoping to do is not only give you data to help you focus on who you should be talking to, but know a little bit more about them so that you can move from, hey, tell me about your farm. What have you been farming? What are your acres? Farmers are pretty busy. And, do they really want to spend an hour educating you? But if you can go in with some level of information and come up with hey, I have something that I think you might be interested in, right? Maybe it's a particular, corn hybrid or a drought resistant, seed. And if you know kind of what they've been growing over the last 10 years and what the weather has been like, and particularly the drought conditions, well, probably a good chance they might perk up. And, we say this internally, solve, don't sell, because when you sell, you get a transaction. But if you truly partner with and solving a farmer's problem, if they truly view as you kind of being aligned with their interest, there you create lifetime value. You create a customer relationship, and that's what we call solving rather than selling. And then again, we may have a chance to show this. I'm not sure. This is our sales tool. It's not a mobile app. It's a mobile responsive web app. So it'll work on any internet connected device, but it's using the GPS in your phone, or you can drop a pin somewhere and say, run a radius, tell me everyone around me. Okay, only show me large farmers, only show me corn farmers, and it allows you to drill down and distill and then, make calls. So we built this to answer that question that people in the field had, who farms that, right? And then also when they're out there in the field, maybe they drove 15 minutes out for a customer meeting, rather than drive 15 minutes out, maybe they should call on the person across the street because they see their crop is not doing well, and maybe they have the right answer. But it starts with knowing who they are, rather than just knocking on the door and say, are you the farmer? Are you the owner? You kind of don't want to start a conversation that way. So before we go into Q&A, I want to just spend a couple minutes showing you the data that I was talking about that underpins everything we do. And I'm going to show you it at the most granular level, and then know that, all of this is rolled up to understand the overall market or creating marketing segments. So this is our grower profile tool, which is a component in our farm focus or our field vision. So I'll show you quickly our field vision tool. That's what that looks like. You saw that in the screenshot. Again, more for the salesperson. And then our farm focus system, which is sort of here's your marketing segment. I'm sorry, did you have a question there, Alex?
I was going to say, sorry, Steve, I don't think we can see your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. I wanted to cut in and let you know.
Yeah, user error. Let me turn it over right here. Okay. All right, how about now?
There we go. We can see it now. So go ahead and flip back through like you were.
Sorry about that. So now you have the visuals to go with the words. So here's our field vision. For the salespeople in the field, you can click around and find out who this farmer is, what they've been farming, go down in much, much more detail. I won't do it here. That's the particular field. And then here are the actual farmers. And then you can go down in more and more details, the smaller one. And it's always running a radius. You can drop a pin anywhere. So that's what that system does. Don't have time to do a demo per se. Here's our farm focus system, which is really drilling down state and county and crop into a segment of growers. We flag them customer or prospect. We can carry over an account number. And here's a lot of information you'd have about them that you may want to sort and search through. You can export this so you have a list the Excel file, CSV file you can share with your sales team or with whomever. And then if you click on this, I've already opened it up. You click on this, you see a grower profile. So this is the lowest level visibility we have, and you'll see it gets pretty detailed. Here's your contact card, Rick Nolan, address, V card, calendar. This is, and the grower profile is accessible in Farm Focus, as you just saw. It's accessible in Field Vision, and then we also have clients that link their CRM systems to it so that we can match and connect it on the fly. And it tells you, okay, they're an owner operator, email address, phone, maybe mobile phone. We enable that on a case-by-case basis. And then we have 34 million farm fields. So we have 90 some percent of farmland geospatially mapped. So you can see where all their fields are. This is Rick Nolan here in the green barn. These are all of his fields, and we can zoom in. You can look at the crop cover. That'll show you kind of what crops are seeing across the area, and then within their farm fields. You can look at a satellite map, but I won't go through that in great detail. So you can really see this is a large operation. 317 farm fields are only showing in this view window 235 of those 317, so we'd have to zoom out. And we're only showing 14 of the 40 related addresses. And we'll show you what that means. And then here you get kind of a numeric or tabular summary of their farm operation over time. Here's all the crops. If S, it's a summary code, meaning it's corn, the total of corn and soy acres. And then individually you have corn acres, individually you have soy acres. You have number of grain bins and the bushel capacity that we're estimating. You have gross farm income. We calculate that based on knowing crop mix, yield, price, and add in any payments they got from the government, which we collect under Freedom of Information Act. So you can see you can get a real high level and detailed level view of how they're doing over time. This is their total planted acres. This is their mix of corn and soy, which I threw up here for use. Let's see if I want to show any other ones. There's not much alfalfa, but it's interactive, so anything you throw up here will map it. And here's a new one that we have. Let's say this farmer owns and operates 9,400 of their 10,000 plus acres. So there's some land that they lease. They're an operator, not the owner. But if you wanted to look at what they own and operate, what it does is it'll highlight all those fields up here. So that's in the light blue, and the ones that they don't own and operate are in the dark blue. Here you have crop rotation. I don't know how quickly the screens are refreshing, so maybe a little ahead of what you see. This is showing you field by field the rotation. All the fields up here. You can click on a field, find the rotation down here, or find fields down here, and it finds where that field is and what that boundary is up there. And the last one I'm going to cover, I won't go through all of these, is the related growers, since that is a very, very powerful and often used, one of the favorite features of our clients is, Rick Nolan, these larger farms, there's many people and many entities involved, and we're able to connect them all. So Rick Nolan, we know, has a business relationship with Nolan Farms. Well, the name Nolan kind of gives away, but Benton Grain, there's nothing that gave that away. So we indicate how they're connected. That's all these different types. And if you click on any of these, you'll see a lot of these are land relationships. These are the landowners. And if you click on any of those, it'll actually, again, highlight the land that this Lisa Nolan has in common with Rick. And it'll give you, I guess I clicked on Town Farms. It'll show the land they have in common and a summary of what those acres are. So again, you can kind of see all the people that are involved or have some stake in this farm operation, either as owner, family member, operator, business entity. Could be set up for crop share, could be for a variety of different reasons. And these larger ones are fairly complex business organizations. This idea it's a family farm, one person, one decision, one entity, just doesn't happen in the larger they get. So I won't go through the rest of it because I do want to make sure we save a good bit of time for Q&A, because I think oftentimes that a lot of these things have gone through quite quickly and may have not answered all the questions out there, and perhaps there's certain things that people want to drill down in, and I'm happy to do that. So I'm going to turn it back to the slide deck here, and I'm open up for questions. There's nothing that's out of bounds. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Steve. So we'd like now to do a short Q&A session. If you have a question for Steve that you haven't typed in yet, go ahead and type it into the chat box now. We'll be moderating them as they pop up. So Steve, the first question that was asked was, how do you, it's actually a two-part question, but I'll ask it as if it was two questions.
Okay.
How do you leverage market research to validate personas?
Well, in fact, what we would use is the market research to develop the personas. Because what we're doing with some clients now is what we'll do is we'll randomly pick a selection of their customers. We will then conduct a survey to collect and get their views of how they like to buy, how they want to interact, whatever persona, buying psychology characteristics you want to capture. We ask those questions. So then we have an answer. Let's just say it's 1,000 farmers, right? But there's 2 million out there. So you take that 1,000, and what we do is we would add additional information to their responses. The kinds of information we'd add is total planted acres, gross farm income, how many acres you own and operate, what's your rotation history, you've been increasing acres, all the age, gender, all these things can be enhanced to that market research, and then use that to model the broader universe. And then you can slot the 2 million farmers into those personas. So market research is really the best way to really start to develop personas. We have had clients that just, in talking to their sales team and the people, slotted them in personas, and then we did the same approach from there. So it wasn't market research. They had already discussed and debated a certain segment of their customer base where they fit in. We use that as a template, if you will, to score the rest of them and slot them into those personas.
Okay. And then the second part of that question was, does it make sense to invest on market research to validate personas when you have a customer list that you can survey?
So, well, the customer list, would be the way I would approach market research in many cases, but it could be a prospect list as well. So, I think it really depends on the client, and it probably depends a lot on what is your goal. Is, as we saw in Market View, are you trying to increase your share of customers' wallet? Because that's where the growth opportunities are. If that's the case, you want to use your customer data, because that's who you're trying to personaize, is your customers, not the prospect. And you're trying to really understand buyer behavior within your customer segment. So that you use customer versus, an overall third-party market research or third-party data source to conduct market research. That would make sense if you're looking to prospect. So there's no clear answer exactly. It really depends on each case and kind of what the strategic goals are.
Okay, great. Now this next question asks, can field vision work in another country apart from the US, like for instance in Africa?
No, sadly, no. We get that a lot, but unfortunately the data we have is US based. There are things we can do internationally. Those things are more around understanding the crop on the ground. We can look at kind of the rotation and things like that. But the challenge in moving these other countries is the availability of data. Where in the U.S. market, the public data is far more accessible. There's a lot more transparency, whether it be real estate data, whether it be USDA data, whether it be pesticide data. there's a lot of that's out there in the public domain. So the application would work great. It's really the data that is lacking. We don't have any data in Africa. We're working on Brazil, but we're still in the early stages there. And in a lot of these countries, data privacy, like Europe, is pretty intense. Hard to replicate anything similar to what we've done. And same thing with Canada. And every market's entirely different when it comes to that. But Brazil, just given the size and knowing a little bit about data availability and what we could do there, I think would probably be the next market.
Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about the challenges that people face when marketing to farmers. What do you think is the biggest misconception that you usually hear that companies have when they market to farmers?
The biggest misconception of marketing to farmers. I don't know if I'd call it a misconception. I would just call it a miss. And I think it is really not understanding, kind of not thinking about what shoes they walk in. And, really just having a single message, and you're applying that single message to anyone. And the closer you can get to one-to-one marketing, and one-to-one marketing is more of a conceptual concept, because if I'm selling to someone, i.e. marketing to someone, I can really tailor what I say based on their feedback and knowing what I know about them. So the closer you can get to that, the better. And that's really, there are a lot of tools that really, I think the ag industry is not quite yet adopted. I would say targeted digital ads are a perfect one, where you can deliver very specific ads to very specific segments. And if you can identify the segment as I was saying earlier, millennial, organic corn grower in DeKalb, Iowa, well, then you can really personalize that message. So it's more likely to resonate and maybe add in some recent drought condition. Well, you're more likely to respond and engage in that versus I have corn for sale, corn seed for sale. And so I would say, I don't know if I'd say it's a misconception. I would just say it's a miss, that this idea of I'm going to come up with one or two messages and deploy that one or two messages against anyone I can reach broadcast wise. And I would say using technology and data to better target and connect message to audience is the biggest miss that I see. And you see it more broadly happening quite extensively in consumer marketing. If anyone looks at their mailbox or looks at the ads that come up on as they're browsing the web or things like that, they're strangely relevant in many cases. And it's not by luck or happen chance. It's driven by data and technology.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, another question we received asked, does Farmview contain data on where growers are currently buying their seeds and what treatments are on the seed?
No, sadly, no. I mean, with one exception in terms of treatments, the one exception would be in California, where we get pesticide data. But in other areas, the only way to know that would be to get data directly from the farmers. And that's just not viable, not possible with trying to track 2 million farmers. Maybe you could survey, maybe you could collect data on 5 to 10%. But we're really focused on kind of the overall market and getting a lot of information on every farmer, but that kind of information, brand or seed selection or anything like that, you could probably do some things to model it, using kind of regression statistical modeling. But, beyond that, I don't think there's going to be any place anywhere where you can get comprehensive data on where they're shopping or buying from and what they're buying, because that's information that's sitting either in the farmers know that or the person that sold them knows that. Neither one wants to let anyone else know about that. So I think, the only exception again for us is California, where we get pesticide data. So we know what product, what crop, who sprayed, treated, how much, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. Now this question, I hope I'm phrasing it right. It asks, is having big data really helpful for a crop which has a niche market?
Yeah, no, I would say it's as, if not more relevant, right? Because on one hand, yeah, we have 2 million farmers, but you're talking about a niche market. I'll give you some good examples. Well, California is a great example. Okay, just knowing the name and address of who's an almond farmer is really just the first step. But the more you can understand around the farm organization, who the decision makers may or may not be, how it's changed over time, things like that. I think, using that, whether you want to call it big data, I would call it detailed data, may not be huge amounts of data, depending on how targeted, how niche you're looking at. But, at the end of the day, the more you know about that one farmer, the better you are able to sell and market to them. The big data bit, isn't necessarily about finding them, but really connecting with and converting them. So that's how I would say. I would say big data has broad applicability in anything, and it's not just sales and marketing. It could be workflow. It could be supply chain. There's lots and lots of uses for big data, and not all of them are precision ag and agronomy. Those are clearly good use cases for big data and data science, but there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that people just aren't doing using data and data science.
Okay, thank you. I think we have enough time for just one more question. So we looked a little bit at Farm Focus, and I saw on it that you mentioned that Farm Focus can work with targeting and social media. Now, what social media platform do you think is most relevant for marketing to farmers, and where do you find the most success in it?
Yeah, this is one of those things where, sometimes I have a saying that says, use your instinct and intuition only in the absence of data. I would have thought, of course, I'm more familiar from a business community, LinkedIn. But what we found is LinkedIn really isn't that effective at reaching farmers. And, but you really look at it, honestly, Facebook. And you look at the demographic of the farmer, average farmer in our analysis comes out a little older than USDA, but that's because they're looking at everyone involved in the farm operation. We're just looking at the decision makers. I think we're at about 62 years old. So, obviously 62-year-olds and their choice of social media is going to be a little different. They're not using the latest, greatest sort of millennial and whatever the newest generation is considered. So I would say Facebook, because it really matches that demographic, and specifically, the data doesn't lie, the numbers don't lie. That's where we've seen greater connection. And when we're talking about using data, what you're able to do in Facebook and Twitter or any of those, not any of them, but most of them, is you could take your customer file or you could take a prospect file, and you basically create a custom audience. You match it to the users in Facebook, and then you can deliver ads to them, and then you can use that segment, and they'll do lookalike modeling. It's all automated, where they will say, all right, here are people that look like the people you've just uploaded. So yeah, Facebook is definitely kind of the 800-pound gorilla when it comes to reach and effectiveness at farmers. I would say after that, you obviously go to Twitter. We haven't really had experience with Snapchat or some of the other social platforms. Again, LinkedIn we have, but it was pretty immaterial in terms of the impact.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I think that's all we have time for today, but I'd like to give a big thank you to Steve for joining us and for Farm Market ID for making this webinar possible. I'd also like to give a big thank you to everyone who participated today, and I hope you found this information of value. Again, a recording of this webinar will be made available tomorrow at seedworld.com, and we hope you just have a fantastic day. This is Alex Martin of SeedWorld, signing off.